After I took a sick day, my coworker joked loudly, "Hope you enjoyed your little vacation, princess, must be nice to be fragile." I bit my tongue as he whispered to another colleague, "She probably just needed a mental health day from typing so hard." Instead of reacting, I submitted an anonymous complaint. 2 weeks later, HR introduced mandatory sensitivity training, and he was suspiciously missing from every future staff meeting. I've worked at this marketing agency in Des Moines for almost 5 years. It's not flashy, but it pays the bills. I'm 39, single, no kids, and I like keeping my head down. I don't get into drama, I don't talk about my private life, and I don't stir the pot. I just do my job and go home. That's probably why I lasted this long without punching someone like Doug in the face. Doug had been at the company longer than me. Maybe 10 years? He wasn't in management, but he acted like he was. One of those "I've been here forever so I can say whatever I want" types. Loud voice, bad jokes, always standing way too close. People laughed when he talked, but it was the kind of laugh you give when you just want him to stop. He never liked me. Or maybe he did, but not in a good way. He'd say weird things sometimes. Once, when I wore a black dress to work, he said, "Who died?" Then laughed like it was the funniest thing he ever said. Another time, when I stayed late finishing a proposal, he walked by and muttered, "Wow, someone's trying hard to get promoted." Like doing your job well was something to mock. So when I had to call in sick, I knew he'd say something. I just didn't know how bad it would be. It was a Monday. I had a migraine that hit me like a truck. I get them once every few months, usually triggered by stress or skipping meals. This one had me curled up in my dark bedroom with a cold cloth on my eyes, praying I'd throw up just to get some relief. I emailed my supervisor early in the morning and logged the sick day in the HR system. I didn't think anything of it. Tuesday morning, I came in, still kind of groggy but functional. I made it to my desk, sipped my coffee, started opening emails. That's when Doug walked in. He came around the corner of the cubicles and shouted, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Well, look who decided to show up. Hope you enjoyed your little vacation, princess. Must be nice to be fragile." A few people laughed. Not hard, more like that nervous, awkward laugh you give when someone crosses a line but you don't want to be involved. I didn't laugh. I just stared at my screen and said, "It was a migraine." He kept walking like nothing happened. I clenched my jaw. I wanted to say more. I didn't. Later that day, I caught him at the printer with one of the newer hires, Dave. Doug leaned over and whispered, but not quietly enough, "She probably just needed a mental health day from typing too hard." Poor thing. It's exhausting being on Instagram all day. They both laughed. That time, something snapped in me. But not in the way Doug probably expected. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't storm into HR. I waited until I got home, sat at my kitchen table, and opened the HR complaint form on my laptop. I typed everything. Word for word. I described the Monday sick day. I wrote down his exact quotes from that morning and the printer. Then I added more. Stuff I remembered but had brushed off before, like the time he called a quiet intern mute girl, or when he joked during a team lunch that women don't belong in the war room. I submitted it anonymously. Then I waited. 2 weeks passed. Doug was still doing his usual shtick. Loud jokes. Bad attitude. But I noticed something. HR started sitting in on more meetings. Beth, the new HR director, started holding one-on-ones with staff. Then, one afternoon, an email went out, "Company-wide sensitivity training will be scheduled over the next month. Attendance is mandatory." That got everyone talking. We were split into small groups. Mine met in a conference room on the second floor. It was boring but serious. Videos, role-plays, discussions. The facilitator asked questions like, "Have you ever witnessed microaggressions in the workplace?" I didn't answer out loud, but inside I was screaming yes. Doug wasn't in my session. Or the next. Or the one after that. By week 3, he stopped showing up to the office altogether. People noticed. He on vacation? Someone asked. Medical leave? Another guessed. No one got a straight answer. Then someone whispered that Beth and Doug had a closed-door meeting that ended with him yelling. By the end of the month, his desk was cleared out. His name was gone from the staff directory. No one said goodbye. No announcement. Just silence. And let me tell you, that silence was the sweetest thing I've ever heard. Doug's disappearance changed the mood in the office. For a few weeks, people acted like they were walking on glass. The jokes died down. The kitchen got quiet. Nobody wanted to be the next name on whatever list got Doug fired, or whatever happened to him. I thought it was over. But then something strange happened. A week after Doug was gone, I got a message on LinkedIn. It was from a woman named Valerie. I didn't recognize the name, but the profile said she used to work at the same company, left 2 years ago. She wrote, "Hi, I saw your name pop up in a conversation recently. I think we should talk. I used to work with Doug. If you went through what I think you did, I'm so sorry. He did it to others too. Message me if you want to know more." My stomach flipped. I messaged back. We ended up having a phone call that night. Valerie told me she'd left the company after a long period of harassment, all from Doug. He used to stand behind her desk too long. Make jokes about her outfits. Once told her during a meeting that she was too emotional to handle a tough client. When she complained to HR back then, the old HR manager brushed it off. Said Doug was just old school and meant well. She quit 3 months later. No one asked why. And she wasn't the only one. Valerie said she stayed in touch with 2 other women who had similar stories. One of them, Jenna, had even spoken with a lawyer at the time but backed off because she didn't want her name dragged through court. My heart was pounding. I realized something. My complaint wasn't the only one. I wasn't the first. But maybe I was the last straw. A few days later, I was in the break room getting coffee when Beth, the HR director, came in. She looked at me for a second, like she was thinking about something, then said, "I just want to thank you. What you did, it made a difference." I nodded. I didn't ask how she knew it was me. I just said, "I hope it helped." She hesitated, then added, "We're reviewing older cases. If you hear anything strange around the office, let me know." And I did. Because the whispering had started again, only this time, it was about me. One morning, someone left a sticky note on my monitor. It said, "Snitch." Another day, I walked into the bathroom and 2 women stopped talking the second they saw me. I heard one of them say later, "She's the reason Doug's gone." Just couldn't take a joke. People I used to eat lunch with now made excuses. I started hearing the word uptight more often. They thought I'd ratted him out just to make a name for myself. They didn't know the half of it. The notes kept coming. First it was just snitch. Then one day I came back from lunch and found a sticky note that said, "Watch your back." No name. No handwriting I could recognize. It looked like someone had printed the letters on a label maker. Clean. Cold. I didn't report it right away. Maybe I should have. But I told myself it was just some idiot blowing off steam. The problem was, now I was looking over my shoulder. Every time someone laughed quietly, I wondered if it was about me. Every time someone shut a door softly, I jumped. I didn't feel safe at work anymore. Not because Doug was there, but because his stink still was. Then things got worse. One morning I got to my desk and my computer was already on. I always shut it down when I leave. Always. I sat down, opened the browser, and found the last page visited was my LinkedIn profile. Someone had looked at it from my own desk. That's when I reported it. Beth called me in. She took it seriously. She asked who I suspected. I told her I didn't know, but I mentioned the sticky notes, the computer, the gossip. She wrote it all down. Promised they'd check the building logs, cameras, keycards. I left her office and walked straight into Dave, the guy Doug used to joke with. He gave me this little smile. Not friendly. Tight. Like he was enjoying something I wasn't in on. That same afternoon, I found a printed photo in my top drawer. It was me. Me, standing in the office break room. Laughing. Probably from a few months ago. Someone had taken the photo without me knowing. Written in sharp black marker across the bottom, some princess. I lost it. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I took the photo straight to Beth and handed it to her. She stared at it for a long time. This is serious, she said. I know, I replied. A few days later, Beth held a team meeting. No names were mentioned. But she made it clear, harassment of any kind, including retaliation for past HR reports, would result in disciplinary action, or termination. That made some people squirm. But it didn't stop the rot. Because a week later, I got a call from someone I never expected. Doug. He called my cell. I don't know how he got the number. I stared at the screen, heart racing, and stupidly, I answered. You think you won? He said. His voice was calm. Too calm. You think getting me canned makes you strong? You're just another bitter little office girl playing victim. I didn't say a word. I hung up. The next day, I filed a police report. Turns out, Doug had been under investigation. Not just for harassment, but for accessing confidential HR files. He had a friend in IT. That friend? Still employed. Still walking around like nothing happened. But now, the police were involved. And that's when the real fallout started. Because someone in the company wasn't just protecting Doug, they were helping him. And I was about to find out who. After I got off the phone with Doug, I barely slept. My hands were shaking. I wasn't scared of him showing up, I was scared of what I didn't know. Who else was feeding him information? How deep did this go? Beth called me into her office again the next morning. She looked more tired than usual. She said quietly, "There's an active investigation. Don't speak to anyone about the photo. Or the call." I nodded. That same afternoon, Dave, the guy Doug whispered with, got pulled into a closed-door meeting. When he came out, his face was pale. He didn't go back to his desk. He walked straight to the elevator and left. 2 hours later, a company-wide email said he was no longer with the organization. I thought that was the end. But no. 3 days later, I was called into the CEO's office. Not HR. Not a manager. The CEO. He was waiting with Beth and a lawyer I'd never seen before. He told me they had completed an internal audit. Doug had gotten my cell number, and access to my HR file, from inside. Dave had been the one who looked up my address, my emergency contact, and even downloaded security camera images from the system. They found the logs. They traced it back to his login. But here's the twist. Dave wasn't doing it for Doug. He was doing it for himself. Turns out, Doug had dirt on him. An old email thread about financial irregularities in a project billing cycle. Doug blackmailed him. Made him spy on people. Made him feed info back in exchange for silence. And the day I filed that complaint? Dave panicked. He thought the whole house of cards was falling. So he started the whisper campaign against me, hoping it would distract HR, deflect from himself. When I submitted the photo and the IT logs started getting pulled, he panicked again. Tried to pin it on someone else. It didn't work. He was fired. And reported. But that wasn't the end. Doug? He was arrested. Turns out, when they dug deeper, they found out Doug had harassed not just me, not just Valerie, but 6 women over the last 10 years. Some had left quietly. Some had been paid off. A few filed quiet settlements, hidden behind NDAs. But now that I had reported everything, and police got involved, the company had to disclose those records. And you know what? The company tried to settle with me too. They offered me money. A lot of it. Sign this NDA, they said. Walk away, and this can all be over. But I didn't want money. I wanted change. So I hired a lawyer. I went public, not to the press, but to the board. I showed them everything. The photo. The messages. The ignored complaints from other women. I showed them how the company culture let Doug thrive for a decade. The board took it seriously. 3 directors resigned. The old HR manager retired suddenly. A new internal reporting system was created. External auditors were brought in. The CEO gave a speech in front of the whole company and admitted, on record, that mistakes were made and people were hurt. It should have felt good. But it didn't. Not right away. Because the truth is, I made mistakes too. I stayed silent too long. I let Doug get away with too much. I convinced myself it wasn't worth the trouble, that maybe I was too sensitive. I ignored the warning signs. And for that, I carry some guilt. But I also learned something. Speaking up might not fix everything. But silence never does. Now? I don't work there anymore. I left 2 months after everything ended. Not because I was scared. Not because I was ashamed. But because I knew I'd never get peace inside that building. I work for a nonprofit now. Still in Des Moines. Smaller office. Better people. Every now and then, I see someone from the old place. They nod. They look away. Some say hi. Most don't. And that's fine. Because I wasn't looking for revenge. I was looking for an ending. And I got one. Doug's gone. The company was forced to change. And me? I'm not princess anymore. I'm the reason the walls cracked. And if I had to do it all again? I'd hit submit faster.